Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us. I'm Joe Swoboda, and I'm joined here with Chad Miller of the Miller Group.
How are you doing?
Good, Chad. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. Let's see if I can make the slide move. There we go. I'm the beautiful looking bald man on the left, and Chad is on the right there. We're going to be talking about remote working from home, as it seems most of us are doing now. The Miller Group, what kind of brought this on, we started a little bit early with the working from home. We started, I looked back, it's actually been a month ago today. It seems like forever now. But we closed up the office and had everybody working from home about a month ago now. And we've been prepared. When there's snow events or something similar to that, we shut down the office, as we have most of this technology already in place and can function do our functions as if we were in the office from home. After the rest of the city and county started shutting down, we had our client base of a couple thousand people all of a sudden all start working from home and having some issues. Some companies were prepared for this, others not so much. And we had a lot of different repeating themes that users were struggling with. So we thought it'd be a good idea to throw together a little webinar and kind of discuss some of those items. To kind of talk about what we're going to do here. This is going to last probably about a half hour or so. I can get long-winded and talk a lot, but I have food sitting here and I'm starving, so we'll try to make it fairly quick. We're giving away an Amazon $50 gift card to all that have signed up. So if you are on and watching this event live and did not sign up, please go to our website, that link there, themillergroup.com/live-events. Click on the sign up for live event and make sure you enter your email address and name, and we will pick a winner here at the end of it. You do not have to be listening at the end to win, but we will be doing that here towards the end. This is a live event using Microsoft Teams. There's no back and forth interaction. However, there is a live question and answers option over on the right-hand side of your screen, where you can ask a question. It will ask to type in your name. You can do it anonymously if you would like. We will see that question and we can follow up and answer those live here. When I say live, the Microsoft Live events have a delay of about 30 seconds. So what you're seeing on your screen happened about 30 seconds ago, but we can get to those questions and answers. We have Alex Palmer from our office, our marketing manager. She is moderating the event and she will be posting the questions, and Chad and I will get through those. So with that, like I said, I like to be a little long-winded. I'm going to turn this over to Chad and he can kind of get us started.
All right. So the topics that we're going to be going over today is securely working from home, technology from working remotely, and then managing a remote workforce. Whenever we all went to kind of start working from home, we noticed that a lot of clients, like Joe said, were having some problems with just figuring out what to do and how to do it. And a lot of it is because there's a good portion of clients that we deal with on a regular basis that up until this pandemic and everything that happened with the virus never really had the need to work from home or never really wanted to. And now that stuff like this can happen, it is always nice to be able to be prepared for something like this happening. If that's a natural disaster, if that's something like this, that's a virus, that's unprecedented. But just having the ability to be able to work from home and pick up right where you left off, and being able to have peace of mind that all your employees are securely working from home is a very, very big deal and a good feeling whenever you are in a crisis like this.
Yeah, and Chad, it's not even really just a pandemic or anything too. It's the occasional sick day or the vacation day, and you still need to get something accomplished that, having to be at the office to do that can limit productivity. So being able to work from home or remotely anywhere, even if you're on the road or something, and still be able to do work as if you're in the office is really important to keep a company moving. So we'll get started here with some of the things that companies or home users should really think about. And, so for our client base, like I said, a couple thousand people, actually, I think closer to about 3,500 end users that we support through our client base. When we support them at their office, the things that we're doing in the background, if you're a client of ours, is we're making sure that your operating systems and things are being supported, that they're up to date and they're secure. That's not always the case, and we're running into this with some home users that are still using outdated operating systems or ones that are not up to date. So here's kind of a list of the OSs, whether you're on Windows or you're on Macs, of what you should be using that's secure. So a big one to kind of note there is Windows 7 went out of support at the beginning of this year, January. Windows 7 is no longer supported, and what that means is that when Microsoft finds a security flaw or a bug or something like that, they put out updates for their operating systems for about 10 years since the release date. Well, Windows 7 is a little bit older than 10 years now, and they no longer are being supported. So you want to make sure if you have Windows 7, you want to get that updated to Windows 10 if possible. For Macs, Macintosh doesn't have the same end of life type support thing, but their rule of thumb is one of the latest 3 versions. So the latest 3 versions are listed there. If you would, Chad.
I was reading a question that we just received, but sorry. Office network security best practices that you should have at your home: the antivirus, the web filtering, as well as automatic patching and updating. The biggest thing is a handful of years ago, a good antivirus did a good amount of security protection against viruses and overall threats. But over the years, there has been a progression in what people are able to do and different ideas of being able to get into computers as well as networks, and now having kind of a more holistic approach to the security, which is the antivirus, the web filtering, and the patching and updating. That's what we'd recommend for everybody's home computer. And the biggest thing is just checking that you have it. And a little bit in the next slide or two, we have some examples of some antiviruses that are free. We also have some, like the WebRoot is the one that we use here at the Miller Group. And the biggest thing is just checking to see what you have, making sure that your home computer is covered. And if you have any questions or want any help finding that, let us know, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. Maybe not during this presentation, but we'd be more than happy to help you out afterwards.
Yeah. So like Chet said, again, when we're managing, we're a company of 20 people, and we're managing close to 4,500 devices. And in order to do that, we need software that is centrally managed, that the software checks in with us and basically gives us alerts and notifications if something isn't working. When you're at home, with a lot of these free products, for instance, with Microsoft Defender, which is built into Windows 10, with the Advanced or the AVG or other ones like that, you're basically on your own to manage these. And that means making sure that the updates are being applied, responding to any kind of issues or threats that it's found. You need to take care of those on your own. So it's not just I installed an antivirus software and I'm done. you do need to make sure that you're checking that periodically to make sure that it is up to date, it is, and that you're not having any issues with it. Another big, as Chad mentioned, having, in the past 7-8 years ago, we were basically telling people you have an antivirus and make sure that your computer's updated and you're pretty safe. Now security is really done in layers. One important layer of that is web filtering software. And basically what that does is it's kind of like a catalog of all the different websites that are out there, broken down into different categories. And they mark them as safe or, questionable, I guess. So if you type in www.themillergroup.com, the software goes out there and looks, hey, this site's been vetted. It's a safe site, you can go to it. What we use it here for, like our clients, and we have some clients that don't want their employees to be going to dating sites or shopping sites during the day or social media sites during the day. So those categories, if someone was to type in Facebook, for example, it would look that up and say, okay, that's a safe site. However, your administration has chose to go ahead and block that. And that's what web filtering software can do. It's great for home networks, for your home computer or your kids' computers. This Norton Online Family, that's a free one you can get. It will keep your kids from going to sites that maybe they shouldn't be going to, but it also kind of protects your computer itself from those same type of threats. And another big part of web filtering software, it helps protect from ransomware. Ransomware, these bad guys that go set up different websites and different servers, you get infected with something. In order for ransomware to work, it has to phone home. And when it phone homes, it has to go to a website. And if that website hasn't been categorized or if it's been marked as bad, it'll stop it from going back and checking in and getting that encryption key. So that's another, it's not a one-all be-all fix, but it's another layer of that security that helps protect you.
And before we go onto this slide, Kelly has a question. Was the Miller Group prepared for the situation we are currently in? So at the Miller Group, we have a rotating work from home schedule that every employee works from home on a basically rotating on a schedule. And so by that, one, it's a little bit of a perk for everybody at the Miller Group, but also it makes sure that each and every one of the employees has the ability to work from home just as if they're at the office. And then also over the winter, we've had to send everybody or have everybody stay at home just for safety purposes whenever it snowed or ice. And so yes, we were prepared, and that's something that kind of practice what you preach type thing that we always recommend for kind of prepare for the worst but hope for the best type scenario. And so we did that internally with the Miller Group before all this had happened.
Yeah, and to be honest, were we prepared for this? No. And I don't know that anybody was. Were we prepared to work remotely? Yes. Were we prepared to work remotely for a month or two? We had to scramble a little bit, so for instance, we still need to receive shipments. We still get mail, and the mail has money from you people in it that are paying us for our lovely services. That still needs to make it to the bank somehow. So, we did have to be creative and keep our doors open. So we had to come up with a schedule for that. We do have 2 people that man the office on a daily basis, which allows for us to practice the social distancing. But we still can receive shipments and track inventory and all that good stuff. Our technicians go out on service calls quite often. Now that has died down. One, the demand for that has died down, but then 2, everybody's a little leery of gathering and going places that they probably shouldn't. So we had to scramble and find some, that personal protection equipment as well. So our technicians, when they do go on site now, are using masks and gloves and disinfecting the equipment that they're bringing in and out. So we are doing that as well. Prepared, for this type of event, no, I don't think we were, but we're able to, adapt and quickly. And I think we're doing a pretty darn good job with that. On to the next slide there, Chad, patching and updates.
So patching and updates, when done automatically, or just when done in general, is whenever there's a known hole in the operating system that either Microsoft or Mac will find, they'll put a patch or update out to fix that hole. To majority of the time, they are security risks. So if there is a hole that a vulnerability is being exploited, then they'll release a patch or update to fix that. That is really important, like Joe mentioned earlier, with having an up-to-date or a supported operating system, because with the Windows 7 operating system, Microsoft is no longer providing the patching and updating for those vulnerabilities or the holes in the operating system. And so that's a big reason why we always recommend to be on a supported operating system, and making sure that your computer, your operating system, is being updated and patched on a regular basis whenever they are available.
Yeah, and you can, again, this is something that you have to manually do, although they can be done automatically. You can set up Windows to automatically be on a schedule to do your updates. You do need to check periodically to make sure that there's no errors and that that's actually happening. In Windows 10, you can go to the control panel and just settings, or you can just go down to start and type in update. It'll pull up Windows Update. And then over on the OS, on the Mac side, you can go up to the Finder and you click on the About This Mac, and you'll see some information as far as what version you're using there, and you can update your software from there as well. Really important, though, that we're being safe, not click happy, and do be aware that the bad guys know that this is all happening, and they're in business as well, and they're trying to make money, so they're adapting the different ways that they're trying to get money out of us or wreak havoc on us. So you see on the news, there's different things that are coming out all the time of different warnings and threats that are going on, but it's the same stuff that we preach all the time. When you do, well, A, if something looks too good to be true, it probably is. B, if you're not expecting an email from somebody, or then be very cautious about it. Make sure that you are hovering your mouse over the links in emails to make sure where they're going before you click on them. Be very extremely careful with attachments. That's where a lot of this stuff comes in. But what we see even in a non-pandemic type event, where clients and computers get hacked or have ransomware, viruses, or malware, it 95% of the time happens because somebody clicked on something they shouldn't have. And being at home, you may feel a little bit safer because you're in your home, comfortable environment, but you still have to be vigilant. No, that's probably not the word. Vigilant? Is that the word, Chad? Vigilant?
Yes, vigilant. Yeah.
You still have to be vigilant and make sure that you're being careful about what you're clicking on there. The big one that was in the news that made the rounds was the Zoom bombing. And I know Zoom has gone out of their way over the last couple of weeks to try to catch up and secure their platform. One thing that we do here is we have daily check-ins. And it's important when you are working remotely from a management point of view, for instance, from Chad and I's point of view, to make sure that all our employees are accountable, is to see their lovely faces. So we check in every morning, and with that, we want to see video as well. So using web conferencing software is extremely powerful for that, whether it's Zoom, Google, whatever Google's thing is. We use Microsoft Teams. But so anyway, Zoom is a big one, and they had a lot of issues here over the last couple of weeks. We came up with some best practices of what you should be doing to secure your Zoom meetings if you are hosting them. And we have a post on our website. Please check out our website for that and other things that we're discussing today. Then also sign up for our newsletter if you're not already signed up for that. We send out monthly posts as well. But here's some different steps that you can take to make sure that your Zoom meeting isn't being hijacked. What people were doing were, if they can just randomly choose a meeting ID, they connect up to a Zoom meeting, and then they have something inappropriate on their screen that shows up then on everybody's in the meeting. They were calling this Zoombombing. There's some simple steps that you can take to make sure that your Zoom meetings aren't being hijacked. Those are listed there. Chad, I'm not doing a good job of letting you talk here. I'm sorry. Go.
No, you're fine. I was actually, Lance has a question for you, Joe. Do you recommend VPN for home?
We will be getting to that a little bit later, yes. But
Okay.
yes, we do, and we'll discuss that in a little bit more further detail a little bit further. I like that though. We got any other questions there before I move on?
No, that's all at the moment.
Okay. So, other things to think about when you're working at home trying to be secure. If you can, and I do realize that some homes have one machine, a laptop or a computer that the whole family uses. I get that. But if and when you can, please make sure that you're dedicating the machine that you're using for work just for work. If you are sending sensitive data back and forth to your clients or your customers, make sure you're encrypting any sensitive data. And there's a whole bunch of different tools out there to do that. You have to check with your IT department to see what they suggest with that. If you're just a straight old home user that's wanting to do that, again, you can go out there and Google some encryption tools for email. Do password protect your user account. This is something that we see quite often is when you walk up to your computer and turn it on, if it just boots right into the, to the start screen where you got your desktop there and you didn't have to enter a password, when your computer is not password protected. And odds are that your computer is logged in with an administrator account, the user that you're using. So if anything does happen to get in as far as a virus or malware, or the bad guy is able to remote control your computer, they have admin rights basically to your computer and they can do whatever they want. So do make sure that you're putting a password on your user account, and it's really quick and easy to do that. If you don't have one, you can just hit Control-Alt-Delete if you're in Windows, and there's a change password option there, which you can go ahead and put a password in there. On the Macs, don't ask me how, we can get you information if you need that. Never use a random thumb drive. This is just best practices, period. When you plug in a USB device, a thumb drive, a jump drive, whatever your terminology for that is, by default, Windows will automatically run whatever's in there if it's set, and if the device has something in there set to do an auto run. You plug it in and it could just start up and run a virus or run something bad. So always be careful about thumb drives that you're not aware of. Don't just be plugging them in. There's not too much public Wi-Fi stuff going on now, but I'm sure there's still cases where people are using it, and this is just good tips for in general. Avoid public Wi-Fi when you can. There are numerous stories of how people went out there and set up their own Wi-Fi that kind of matches the one of where somebody's at, and they're able to get users to go ahead and connect up to it, and then they run little tools on their computer that will capture all the data that's going back and forth over that Wi-Fi. So whenever possible, use your phone as a hotspot and connect to it. If you are out and about, make sure you're kind of protecting what's up and on your screen. Same thing, think of it when you're at the gas pump and you're typing in your PIN number for your credit card or your ATM card into the gas pump. They got that little sticker there that says you're supposed to be kind of putting your hands over it so no one can see what's going on there. Same thing there. There's people that go out in public spaces that are looking to grab or monitor what keystrokes you're using or where you're at and see if you're a target worth getting. Never, of course, leave your laptop unattended. And then a really good one here is a USB data blocker, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit. In public places, they have a lot of these charging stations where you just go and plug your phone in to a USB plug, like a hub, where they have a bunch of people standing around. Those can be hijacked and manipulated, where they can go ahead and kind of steal your data that's going into that as you're charging. So what a USB data blocker does, they actually call them USB condoms. But basically what it is, it's a little adapter that you plug into the end of your charging cable, and it disables the data ports, but leaves the charging ports enabled. So when you plug in, you're still getting the juice and you're able to charge, but there's no data going back and forth to the device on the other end. So those things are like $10. Great idea to get one of those. Technology from working from home. This is where we'll get into that VPN a little bit here. So these are some of the key things that basically every company needs if they are to have their staff work remotely. You'll need a VPN. And what a VPN is, it's a virtual private network. The internet itself is a public network. All the data, one way I like to kind of, the analogy I like to use, for some of us that are a little bit up there in age, the old time phones, the phone that was plugged into the wall, if you were to make a phone call on that, there's nothing really stopping the phone person out there on the pole to put a couple little devices onto the wire and they can listen in on what's going on. Same thing with the internet, it's all public. So if somebody was to, along the way, from your home computer to your internet provider's router at your home, then that goes to the ISP's location, and then how many other different routers and switches your data passes along the way. Somebody can sit anywhere along that line and just kind of what they call sniff the data and collect all that and start looking for credentials and whatever. A VPN creates a virtual tunnel, a private tunnel between your device and some remote device, whether it's your company's router or another computer on the other end, a server or something, and it encrypts all that data so no one can get in there and kind of sniff and see what's going on. So a VPN is extremely important whenever you're connecting remotely back to your office or remotely to a different location, whether it's like a cloud, something in Azure or Amazon, a server hosted there. A VPN is extremely important. For most people then, a lot of our clients, they remote into their desktops then at their office. So they need something called remote desktop services, RDP. You want to be, now this is where your IT comes into play, is that you don't want your remote desktop servers to be accessible publicly on the internet. You do want those kind of behind a VPN. That's most of the hacks that go on are happening through open RDP servers. So RDP is extremely important. It allows you to remote control machine basically as if you were sitting there. It's a great tool. It just needs to be protected properly behind a VPN. Phone systems. Having a voice over IP phone system, which basically means instead of using the old phone lines, it goes over the internet, extremely important. They have a lot of features. One of them is the ability to plug it in anywhere and it works as if it was at your office. At the Miller Group, some of the people here decided to go ahead and take their handsets home with them and plug them in. And if I was to dial Chad's extension, Chad's sitting at his home office right now, it would work as if he was sitting at his office here. It would ring right through. So a voice over IP phone system, extremely important. There's a lot of great features that are built into those things. You can even save some money over the regular POTS service, plain old telephone service. I think that's what that stands for. Another big tool to have is communication software. And you can think of communication software as what most of us think of it is Outlook, email. That's communication software. But when you're talking about collaborating with your coworkers, having a tool like Slack, or what we would recommend, Microsoft Teams, is a great tool to go ahead and collaborate remotely. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can access it on your phone, at your office computer, at your home computer. Not only can you have chats, one-on-one chat type messages going on, you can have one-to-many. You can do live events with this, like this in it. Like I said earlier, we host our morning meetings where everybody gets on there and we get to see everybody's lovely faces through Teams. The great thing with Teams too, though, is you can integrate your files. So we have all our files that we share are listed there as well. Teams or Slack, programs like that are great and crucial for working remotely. Speaking of Teams, Chad, we have any questions to cover?
Yeah, I was just about to say, George has a question. What about cloud-based RFP services such as TeamViewer or LogMeIn?
Yeah, well, we do have some clients that didn't have the ability to have a VPN set up or to have remote desktop services configured behind a VPN. Using something like TeamViewer is acceptable. That now they're just default right out of the box. The settings are not necessarily extremely secure. You do have the ability to go ahead and set up a password, or even in TeamViewer, you can enable it where they actually have to log in with the Windows credentials for that. And each one's going to be different. You do want to make sure, for LogMeIn the same way, you do want to make sure that you're going through each whatever program you're using and enabling a lot of the security features. We did run across one of our clients that had LogMeIn set up and they were sharing it with all their users, one account. So they would all log in with one account, and their listed was 40 different computers that they could log in and pick from. So with that LogMeIn, you basically log into a website. They had a simple username and a password. They didn't have two-factor authentication set up. So if somebody happened to have that username and password, they could get in there and see 40 different machines that they could then get in and hack right then and there. So in TeamViewer, I believe you can also go to the website and log in and pick your things from there. So you do want to make sure that you're enabling two-factor authentication whenever possible, not only for those, but for your bank, for Microsoft Office 365, for Facebook, for LinkedIn, heck, for ordering on Amazon. You do want all of these cloud-based programs. Anything on the website nowadays is offering two-factor authentication. You do want to make sure that you're enabling that and using that. And basically, two-factor authentication means you type in your username and password. That's one factor. Then the second factor is then something that you own, basically, proving that it is you, and that's usually like your phone. They can send you a text message asking you to type in a code. That's one way of doing it, not the most secure way, but it's one way of doing it. And another way is using an authenticator application on your phone, for instance, like Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. Product like Duo is a authentication program that some of us use here as well. That does allow the second factor. So if somebody was to find your credentials online, they can log in, but if they don't get that, if they don't own your phone and get that code that you have to push on your phone, then you're stopping them there. So that's extremely important to have two-factor authentication on for LogMeIn and TeamViewer as well. Got another question there?
Yep, from Ed. Speaking of Teams, can you display more than 4 users at a time in a conference? Actually, with this one, it was within the past week that Microsoft Teams has upped it to 9. So instead of having the 2x2 boxes whenever you're in a meeting and then whoever speaks shows up, now it's a 3x3. So now you have 9, and then whoever's speaking at the time will show up if there's more than 9 people at a time. That was released within the past couple days. I know that was high on their priority list to get done, and it's been taken care of over the past couple days.
Yeah. Microsoft's pushing out quite a few things, just like Zoom is as well, some features. So Microsoft now has the ability, in Teams to have some, virtual backgrounds, so you don't have to look at whatever's behind you. You can put up some wallpaper type stuff, different scenes and scenarios, scenery. There we go, scenery, some different scenery. They're also then, so Zoom was kind of the leader, I guess, in some of this, the ability to go ahead and like raise a hand in a meeting, annotate on a screen. Microsoft's pretty quick behind coming up with a lot of those features built in as well. But good question. Good question. Where are we at right now? We're on Teams. Yeah, we love Teams. We've been using Microsoft Teams for, heck, 2 years now. And it is Microsoft's fastest growing, fastest adopted piece of software ever. And the caveat there is it's free. Well, I guess nothing is really free in life. You do have to have an Office 365 account. And although right now Microsoft is offering it free during the pandemic here, but there's a lot of great tools that you can use there. We have had a couple clients, some larger clients that we're in the talks of migrating over to something like Microsoft Teams prior to this, and then this hit. During this time, if you do have a large staff that has to be trained on how to do something differently, because one thing that I've noticed in 20-something years of doing this, a lot of people know how to do something one way. If you change it on them, boy, you're going to have problems. So, training goes a long way with this, and training for a new tool and pushing something out with your whole workforce spread out all over the place is probably not the best time to do that, but it can be done, just really depending on the size of your company and the need that you have there. But if your company's not using Teams and utilizing it, one thing with Teams that we love here at the Miller Group is we don't use email to communicate anymore, not at all. Everything's done through Teams, and if you think of it kind of like your phone. If you in your text app, how you have all your text kind of separated there in different threads, Teams kind of has their chatting like that as well. It's great for that. But then we even break it down inside Teams. You have what they call teams, and teams are basically kind of like groups or subject matter type discussions. We have a few where we break it down into different departments here, like an HR team. We have our service techs are all part of a team. And then conversations and files are all kind of stored inside those teams, which makes it really easy to find what you're needing. Gone are the days where we send a spreadsheet via email to 3 or 4 people as an attachment, and we ask for advice and changes to it, and everybody makes changes, sends it back in a reply all, and you get to the point where you don't even know which copy is the live copy, and you have copies all over the place. Something like Microsoft Teams, you work on one file, you have conversations right there in the file itself. And you always know which one's the live version because it's just one version. It's always right there. I promise we are at 12:38. We're a little bit over a half hour, so we'll pick up the pace here. This one is, we have a post on this on our website as well as some best practices of what to use and what not to use when cleaning your technology. But think about how dirty, just think about how much you're cleaning and disinfecting everything now more than you have in the past. But where are your hands all day for 8 hours a day? They're on your keyboard, they're on your mouse, they're on your desk. Please make sure that you're just disinfecting these devices as well, and more importantly, your cell phone. Your cell phone goes with you everywhere. I mean, there's studies that show that your cell phone has more, I'll say it, more fecal matter on it than the top of your toilet does. Make sure you're cleaning these on a routine basis. That's all I'm going to say on that. Okay. Chad, if you want to go into a little bit more big picture managing a work company here.
So with managing a remote workforce, the biggest thing is you can have everything in place. You could have the best antivirus, you have all your patching updated, all the machines patching and updated. You could have an up-to-date operating system on every machine. And one thing you cannot control is what Joe said earlier, someone that's click happy, someone that gets an email that says, oh, you won $100 Amazon gift card, click here. And then they click on it, and that was ransomware, or that was a virus or a crypto virus or whatever it might be. So security awareness is going to be a very big step for every individual employee, because just getting the ins and out of knowing what to look for on an email, like Joe mentioned earlier, hovering over any link or attachment that you're about to click on, just to make sure it's going to where it says it's going to go, and it's not trying to trick you. Sound like you're gonna say something, Joe?
Yeah, well, yeah, and the bad guys like to go ahead and take advantage of things that mean something to us. For instance, for me, they may think that I'm going to be clicking on something to help me grow hair. Or lose weight. Those are personal type subjects that people are more likely to click on. And right now, during the time that we're in right now, the coronavirus would be something that people are going to be a little bit more willing to click on. So the bad guys know this, and they're crafting their message around these types of subjects. So for a company type, for now, and even when we're not in a pandemic, is to make sure that your users are involved in some sort of cybersecurity training program. And there's a lot of them out there. The Miller Group offers some for free to our client base as well. It's a good idea that you're, and it's not a one-time where you send somebody through it and okay, everybody's aware on cybersecurity now. No, it's something that has to be ongoing. So that's one thing that you want to make sure that you're doing for your work staff as well.
And if anybody is interested in the cybersecurity training for your end users, for the employees, just if you want to let me know or shoot me an email at chadmiller@themillergroup.com, we can talk about kind of the ins and outs of that, what it is, and how we potentially get it rolling for you.
Yeah, and if you don't remember his email address, we have a contact us page on our website as well. You do want to make sure, again, if you're on the management type side of a company, that everybody has access to what they need, the applications that they need, and the documents that they need. So the applications that they need, some of them are, client server type based, where you do need to be accessing them from your network in order to use them. That's where a remote desktop solution with VPN works wonderfully. The documents that they need, if you have file shares on your server, make sure that those are accessible remotely. And how you do that could be through a VPN type solution, or getting those files moved to the cloud somehow, whether that's through Microsoft Teams, or even putting a server in the cloud and having everybody access them there. But you do need to make sure that you have good security on these cloud type applications. Again, that the two-factor authentication cannot be something that I stress more. If you're going to get anything out of this, find something that you log into on the web. And I think a great one for most people, especially nowadays when you're not going out to the store as much. I know my wife, which she'll slap me when I get home, has upped her Amazon orders over the last couple of weeks. That one's a little difficult to find inside there. It's underneath your account, but enabling two-factor authentication for Amazon is a great idea. I have heard some horror stories of people having their Amazon account hacked. You think about it, you have your credit card most likely saved inside there, and people are going in there and just placing orders, shipping them to where they want, and getting some stuff off your dime.
So with this slide, ensure that your connections are secure whenever, for each employee that is working remotely, making sure that you have a VPN set up and it's in place and it's working efficiently. Like Joe mentioned, multi-factor authentication is one very, very efficient tool that just gives a huge peace of mind, because like we mentioned, you need two things to verify your authentication. You need to have a phone and your password, or your thumb and a password, and just make sure that they can't get your information by just guessing a password or getting it from the dark web or whatever that might be. And then also a big thing that a lot of home Wi-Fi's don't have is an actual password protection that is not the general password that comes with your router. Say you have AT&T or whatever it might be, and you get a router that comes with your Wi-Fi and your internet. Just make sure that if the password is on, and make sure that it's not the default password that came with the router.
Yeah, that's and some people don't even have passwords, period. For ease of use and making sure that their kids and neighbors or family members that come over and want to be able to connect to their Wi-Fi, they just leave it wide open and people connect right up. You do want to make sure you do have a password on there.
We have a question from Mike. When accessing a remote desktop at work, are both computers at risk?
It really kind of depends. Yes and no. If you are using, for instance, just RDP, remote desktop protocol there, you're not passing any information back and forth between the two computers. You're just viewing them. If you do connect through a VPN, you do have the ability, depending on the VPN solution, you have the ability to go ahead and map drives from your office computer and make them available on your home computer. That would mean that if your home computer happens to have a virus or, especially like ransomware, which spreads through any kind of file shares that you have on that machine, if your computer happens to get compromised and you're connected through a VPN, the office shares will be compromised, can be compromised as well. So yes, they are both susceptible there, and that's why it's extremely important to make sure that your home machines are secure and protected. Yeah, I don't know where else was going to go with that. A big thing, though, I think for companies is to make sure that communication systems or whatever you're using to communicate is being enforced and being enforced all the time. So, for instance, as we're working throughout the day here at the Miller Group, we do have the ability to go ahead and shoot somebody a quick little Teams message to have that, if somebody's got a question for somebody. We promote and encourage that those type conversations are done via a video. So they're both sitting, so basically you see the other person that you're talking to right there on your screen and you have that conversation there. Again, it adds some accountability. You don't have somebody sitting in their rocker watching Netflix as they're working. I'm doing my air quotes here. You're making sure that everybody is doing what you're paying them to do.
And on another note, whenever we've been working from home, like for the past month or so, it is nice being able to see the person that you're talking to, because I've only seen a couple employees in person since this all happened, and all the other ones, it's nice to see their face every now and again versus just talking over the phone. It does kind of make you feel a little bit more like normal versus just feeling like you're cooped up in your house all day.
But you get lonely, don't you, Chad?
Yeah, I get a little stir crazy.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's great. And then sometimes, you get that little humor there. One of our technicians actually has a bird that's always in the background. I know, Chad, you have your, two large dogs walking around and roaming here and there. A couple people have cats that like to jump up on. It just gives just something to talk about a little bit sometimes too. And it kind of keeps, even though we're all separated, it kind of keeps everybody together. I believe we are towards the end here. And before I pick our winner,
we have one question from Josh. What is the cost of setting up a VPN system in a company that does not have one?
There's a lot that goes into that, Josh. One, you need to make sure you have a router that supports VPN, or can pass that information off to a different device behind it, maybe a server that can handle VPN. Routers can run a good firewall that has VPN support, can run anywhere from 500 to 1,000. VPN licenses can vary from 10 to $50 a user. Those are one-time charges. And then, of course, the labor of paying some wonderful people like us to get that all set up and configured. So, you know, you can do it on the cheap end if you're doing it manually by yourself for under $1,000. You can get close to about $2,000 if you're paying a professional type company to go ahead and get that set up. That's a ballpark. It really kind of depends.
Yeah, and Josh, just because there is so many variables that would need to be addressed, if you want to reach out to me via email, feel free, and I can help you out. Again, it's chadmiller@themillergroup.com.
All right, I'm going to, if we don't have any more questions, I am going to use this wonderful little tool that I made.
One more question, Joe.
Okay, shoot.
By Maria.
I don't have the questions. If you could read that for me, that'd be wonderful.
Not sure if covered, but where can we buy a USB data blocker, model number and cost for charging phone at remote site?
Yeah, and I don't have a particular one that's better than any other, but if you go out to Amazon, I looked this up the other day, and just type in USB data blocker, you'll see a couple hundred different devices. They do range anywhere from $5 to about $15. Again, I don't think there's anything better than, I mean, it's just a piece of hardware. It's mechanics. There's no software really kind of built into that. So read the reviews like you would do when you're purchasing anything else, but I'd shoot for that, you know, about $10 price range. You should be fine. We all good on questions there? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pick our winner. I might even be able to announce this winner on the air here. How many people did we end up getting? 53. If you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead really quick here and make this work for 53 people and pick our number. I'm doing this in a product called Power Apps, which is another kind of free tool that comes with Office 365. You can make your own little programs and apps. This is something that the Miller Group will be pushing out more and more to our clients. You know, for instance, one thing we did with it here, we have 5 different company cars that the techs take for on call, and it's nice to know where the car's at and who has them. You know, kind of like a check-in, check-out thing. So we have an app that we made that's basically just kind of like an app you would have on your phone, and it is on their phone where they can open it up and check in and check out a car, and it updates a list here. And you can come up with a whole bunch of different solutions that you can make using your current data and current programs and tying them all in together and making some solutions a little bit more automated where things might be manual. That being said, I created a little random number generator here, and we're going to pick it. And what number did we get there is 7. Let's look up and see who number 7 is here. And if it's one of my family members, they're not going to win, but it's not. The winner is Carrie O'Brien, Summit Marketing. So as we mentioned earlier, do not click on emails that say, hey, you got an Amazon gift card. We will be sending you one out, Carrie, for a $50 Amazon gift card. You can go ahead and click on that one. I do want to thank everybody for their time. We'll be sending out a short little survey after the fact. Hopefully you enjoyed this, but if you didn't, please let us know. And if you did, and there's other subjects that you would like us to cover in the future, we would love to get your feedback on that. Chad, have a wonderful day. Alex, thanks for running this for us, and we will talk to everybody later.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming and joining.